you guys are in for a special treat today, and we're going to be talking specifically about masterminds, getting more time back in your life and business, improving your overall quality of life, everything around those aspects. Two guys that I've been big fan of from afar, but haven't got to connect with just yet. One used to be in my backyard. One is in Southern Florida. Alex Pardo, Steve Cavanaugh. They are the co-founders of the Ascend Mastermind and coaching groups. Having a lot of laughs before we go on air here. Thank you guys for coming on. How you doing?
Doing amazing, brother. Thanks for having us on.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, guys, there's so many different directions we could go and talk about Mastermind, Ascend, everything like that. But if you guys want to give a quick intro of how you guys got into real estate, what you guys are doing now in your real estate businesses, and then we can just focus on Mastermind and the Ascend group. Just try to add as much value as possible to everybody listening.
Awesome. Cav, you take this one first, man.
Yeah. So, I just want to kind of give the introduction to what is a mastermind. I think it's very important that we clarify that for people because the word is used very liberally. In other words, it's used to describe a lot of different scenarios. And Alex and I, what we do is we run a mastermind that is very much a Napoleon Hill, as in the book Think and Grow Rich type of mastermind. We run it pretty much as he describes in the book. What that means is that we run a challenge-based mastermind. That means that people are encouraged to show up to our 3 times yearly mastermind that we do down here in South Florida, and they need to bring a business or personal challenge that is like the one big domino that they need to knock over. And then through addressing that challenge, each person gets an hour, and they throw that challenge out there within the first 3 minutes. Then we go around the room, we ask clarifying questions, make sure everybody fully understands all angles of the issue. And then, and only then, do we dive in, and then we attempt to help them through our own experience and the experience of everybody else in the group. So when the mastermind is run correctly, the group kind of facilitates itself, and Alex and I can just sit back and make sure that we're addressing the right points and more or less moderate the conversation. That's how we run our mastermind, and it's extremely effective.
Yep. Very cool. And that's one thing before we even hopped on the call, I was just thinking about Napoleon Hill, how he met Andrew Carnegie, spent 20 years researching all these people. And I think that may have been even the number one indicator of success is joining some type of mastermind, which is 2 or more people collaborating, XYZ, what you just went through and described. So that's really awesome.
Yep. And Carlos, just to give you and for your listeners a little bit of background, this isn't so much about what Steve and I have done in the past. We want to make sure that people walk away with value from the podcast. I got started in real estate in 2005, and I'll kind of quickly go through my background and how I got in this business, and I'll also tie it into how masterminds have played such a big part in not just my business, but primarily even my life. Steve and I talk all the time that so many of the Ascend members that we coach and just people that have reached out to me from the podcast, people that have reached out to Steve from, the real estate investor group that he ran for many, many years. Oftentimes people come to us with what they perceive are business challenges that are truly manifesting themselves in their personal life or they're really personal challenges and problems that are being masked in their business, but at the root of it, it's things in their personal life. And so I got started in 2005. I came from, corporate finance, worked for General Electric for a couple of years, quickly realized that just wasn't for me. Ended up backpacking around Europe for 3.5 months to try to find myself. And I ended up going to a weekend boot camp back in the days, what they called it. Took a letter out of the manual, and I did my first deal about 60 days later. 44 grand is what I made, and haven't looked back ever since. So from end of 2005 until now, I've been in this business full time. But I made a huge, massive mistake in 2007, right before the market turned. Ended up purchasing a $500,000 house with a partner, and we lost each 50 grand on that property. A little bit more than 50 grand is what I lost, and he lost about the same. And at that time, I always saw masterminds and coaches as an expense. Now I see them as an investment, because I know that had I had somebody in my corner, to shortcut the learning curve and to just share with me the experience that they may have and that they usually have that I didn't, or if I would have been part of a mastermind of successful, like-minded people, I would have avoided just a lot of lost money and just headaches and just, brain damage in the process. So it was around that time. I'm super grateful for that massive failure in my life at the time, which wasn't a failure. It was a blessing, because that's what propelled me to start looking out for the right person to work with and the right mastermind. So it was around 2008, 2009 that I joined the mastermind. And ever since 2009, over a decade, I've been a part of a mastermind or two at the same time. And it's without that, honestly, I don't know where I'd be. And Steve kind of has a little bit of a different story, but I know the end result is the same. I mean, without a mastermind and the right person in our life, man, who knows? Who knows?
Love that.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, I'll just piggyback very quickly. I realize I just hopped into this without any sort of biographical information. I've been a full-time investor for 15 years. I primarily have done, rehabs, wholesale, fix and flip, but through the years of doing that, I always took money off the table and bought rental property. So I now have a nice little rental portfolio that allows me to live down here at the beach in South Florida and not really worry about working too hard. And over the past 13 years, I've been coaching individuals through learning how to get into the business, right? Like joint venturing with them on their first 3 deals. So I did that for the past 13 years and have got to the point where I wound that business down and have now started Ascend with Alex here. I say all that to say that I have a vast experience, not only in real estate, but in coaching others. And one of the things that I became passionate about here in the last, 3 to 5 years has been kind of helping people, instead of rehabbing homes, kind of rehab their lives. And so that's one of the kind of the cornerstones here, what we're doing within Ascend. I think also to piggyback on what Alex just shared is that I have been part of a mastermind for about 13, 14 years now. And I'm a loyal guy. I value loyalty. It's a very big thing to me. And I have been in that same mastermind for all of those years. And one of the things that's very appealing to me about the group that I'm in is it's also got a coaching component. So when Alex and I were talking about building Ascend, our mastermind, we wanted to add that coaching component because it's not just about the 3 times a year that you're meeting with the group. It's about what happens in between. And working with a coach helps to make sure that you're successful when you come to those masterminds. I mean, you think about Tiger Woods, for example, he can't just show up at all the majors and then not have a coach in between and then just expect that everything's going to be great just because he's showing up at these majors throughout the year. He has to have a coach, and the coach has to keep him going from tournament to tournament. So that's precisely why we set this up the way that it is. And it's just been so beneficial to me in my career to have a coach and the mastermind all in one.
Love that. Yeah. And I mean, over a decade and a half between the two of you of mastermind experience, over 20, 30 years of combined real estate investing experience, a ton on the table. I could tell just from interacting with you guys for a few minutes, happy-go-lucky guys, genuinely seem to be happy guys, which is the most important thing, which you alluded to, is instead of helping show people how to rehab a home primarily, it's showing them how to realign their life thoughts, everything like that. I guess first 2 questions before we can take this on a few different directions is how and when did you guys come about deciding to partner up and create the mastermind group yourselves?
Yeah.
So I'll take that one, Alex, and then you can append anything. So as I alluded to before, I knew that I was winding down my operations with my local coaching program in Maryland, and I was becoming more passionate about teaching other leaders throughout the country to build local coaching programs like I had set up for all these years. It's very lucrative, but very gratifying at the same time. And like I said, I think that when we get to a certain level of anything in life, we always kind of want to wonder, like, well, what's next? And for me, that was to work with those leaders versus working with newbies. Nothing wrong with working with newbies. I did that for 13 years, but I felt like my coaching had leveled up. So I needed to level up the clients that I was working with. So I was actually at a mastermind at the beginning of last year. Alex happens to be in the same mastermind. And when it was my turn to present my challenge, part of my challenge was, hey guys, I don't know what's next for me with this level up coaching thing. I know that I need to level up. I know I want to work with higher end clients. And I don't know what that looks like. So long story short, on break after my turn, I was kicking around in the courtyard at this hotel we were at, and Alex Pardo here comes alongside. And Alex has been a friend of mine for many years now. Alex comes up to me and says, Steve, I don't know what it would look like. I don't know any of this, but I just know that, if there's any way that I could add value to what you are thinking about putting together, I would love the opportunity to have that discussion. So I said, man, let's talk about that. That's really worthwhile talking about. Alex has got a great following. Alex is very well respected in the industry, and it just made sense for us to link up. He's also a great, great coach and just a superhuman being. So it makes sense for us to partner together. Alex, did I miss anything there?
Thank you. Well, I appreciate the words, man. I'm humbled. But yeah, I think from my vantage point, Steve and I met at a mastermind, many, many years ago. And someone I've always just been very aligned with, and someone I've always looked up to in many ways. I appreciate his heart and the heart for service, because I've always felt like contribution is a big one of my needs. I always am asking people, how can I add value? And so I was at that mastermind. My challenge was, I've been doing real estate for so long, and it's, when we close deals, I'm super grateful and appreciative for the money because it takes care of my team, and I love my team. And I know we've helped a homeowner and we've helped an investor, but I've always felt like there was something bigger for me. And I don't want to say I've lost passion with real estate, because I enjoy real estate. I feel like I'm always going to be a part of real estate. I'm always going to do it. But I felt God has kind of been tapping me on the shoulder, like, there's something bigger meant for you. And I've been coaching people since 2012, not to the level that Steve has, but I've worked with a number of people, and I know I've helped them succeed. And I get more joy and fulfillment, Carlos, out of getting a testimonial from a coaching client than I do from a seller. And to me, that really opened my eyes when I know I've been able to change the trajectory of someone's life. It's just very rewarding. And so as I was listening to Steve, say, hey, I'm thinking of doing this, it instantly hit me. I'm like, let me talk to him and just see if there's anything possibly there. And like he said, I approached him because I'm always looking like, hey, man, is there something I can do to help? Would it make sense? Does 1 + 1 = 5 in this case? And just fortunate that everything lined up and our visions were aligned, which is really important. When we coach people in Ascend, we always start with, hey, what's the vision for your life? And then let us help you design a business that's going to support that vision. What we find, Carlos, is that many people address it. They have that equation reversed. They're always focused on making more money, building a big business. Scaling is like, the word that you constantly hear. And yet, years later, they look back and their relationships are suffering. Their health might be suffering, a combination of both or other things. And yeah, they're making money, but they're not happy. You kind of talked about the fact that, you got the sense that we're happy people, and we are. And that's not to say we don't have challenges, because we all have challenges, but we enjoy the journey. It's the growth, in us. And we also have a coach. We're also part of a mastermind. So we not only talk it, we truly believe it. So anyways, man, that's a super long way to answer your question, but that's how we came together. And it's just a blessing to be able to impact people and walk alongside them and help them grow in their life and in their business.
Mm-hmm. No, great breakdown. It's awesome just learning and hearing more about you guys. And it makes sense hearing your values and beliefs are all in alignment as you're growing Ascend. I didn't realize it was this recent that you guys had went about creating and starting the Ascend Mastermind and coaching.
Yeah, June. I think so. June is when we, had the first conversation. End of May, beginning of June, and man, we've kind of, Steve always says we have grown the group at breakneck speed, and we're almost completely full. We have two groups of 15, and granted, we put in the time. We haven't just accepted anybody that has the investment to make, but we've really adhered to the 4 core values that we live by. I've been a part of Masterminds, Carlos, and I think this is something that's really going to be eye-opening for people listening, especially if they've never been a part of a mastermind. I've been a part of a masterminds where people are very guarded. People are very selfish with the information they have. And masterminds don't work that way. Masterminds work when everybody has a go-giver type mentality. Where like, hey, I'm there to help you and open up and share what's working for me and share what's not working for me. I'm going to be vulnerable about my failures as well as share my successes. That's when masterminds work. But when people are guarded, in the past, I've been a part of local masterminds, and you can just sense that people aren't opening up because they're in your backyard and they don't have that abundance mentality, and a combination of things. So we've been very guarded, and we've been vetting people to make sure that A, they meet our core values, and B, they're going to be open and just go-givers and transparent. So Steve, anything else to add to that, man?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, first of all, I would say yes. We have grown at breakneck speed. We are almost completely full, but it's very much been a startup for us that we are extremely proud of. And we have both worked hard. Alex kind of more or less pulled me out of retirement with this, and Alex is a little bit faster than I am, so I've had to work hard at catching back up a little bit. I've kind of been semi-retired, just chilling on the beach here for the past couple of years, but it's been a lot of fun, and we are affecting lives in a very big way. And maybe we can share a couple of those stories with you in just a few minutes. But yeah, no, I think, man, I think to Alex's point, finding the right people has actually been easier than I thought it was going to be. We're knocking out a handful of these interviews a day, and man, we're just interviewing some great people. We're just interviewing really good people for this group. But I don't know if now's an appropriate time, but I would love to share with you kind of some of the core values that we built this mastermind around, and just give you an idea of what that looks like. So
100%.
Our four core values that Alex was alluding to is, number one, it's integrity. So people that have integrity. Number two, it's people who are willing to be real, authentic, and vulnerable, and share what's really going on in their businesses and their lives so that we can help them. People who value, number three is people who value personal growth and development. And then certainly number four is the desire to make an impact, not only on their families, communities, state, country, but around the world. So for example, I do this thing called Master Mission in Guatemala, where I take a group of people down once a year and we do a mastermind and mission trip. It's a combination of both for 5 days. And then Alex has his charity that he does as well. I want to throw one other thing in here before we skip topics here, and it has to do with the mastermind format and what differentiates us. I already alluded to the fact that we are both coaching and mastermind here, and there are some clear benefits for that because the growth is sustained over the entire year or the entire involvement versus just showing up at a mastermind. One of the other things that's very prevalent in masterminds in our industry today is the give. So the give is where you have to prepare a presentation, you hop up to the front of the room, then you share the presentation. And in many cases, that's great. I'm not here to say there's anything wrong with that, but that's not a mastermind environment. That's more of like a classroom. That's more of a teaching kind of thing. And a lot of people feel a lot of pressure to be able to come up with something to share when they have their give. And not only that, I feel like it can create the bright shiny object syndrome in the people who are taking in that content. So back to Alex's point, we don't pressure anybody for a give. We simply ask people to show up with what's their biggest challenge. And all three of us on this call today, if we wanted to have a conversation about what's our biggest challenge, either in our personal life or in our professional life, we would be able to come up with one, right? Mm-hmm. And it's that simple. There's no pressure. Just show up and be yourself and talk about what is going on. What's the hurdle in front of you right now? How can we help you overcome that? And that's how we help people through this. So, sorry, I kind of went on a rabbit trail there.
No, I mean, that's the best way to get it out and for people to absorb and hear, so no apologies the rest of the call, because that's amazing stuff. Just to backtrack on a couple points, guys, one thing I wanted to find out, and I was going to ask exactly what your 4 core values were, is that's such a hot button thing. And, there's actually legit masterminds like Ascend, but the word or term mastermind gets thrown around pretty loosely, pretty much for any type of collaboration. The hot seat type presentation, hearing you explain it makes a little bit more sense of why people may be a little bit more guarded, where they're just kind of standing up on stage waiting to get, the metaphor of like vegetable thrown at them or whatever, like if somebody's performing on stage, stuff like that. But I was thinking in my head when asking about what your 4 core values were, I was also going to ask what people should be looking for when they're looking for masterminds. Because a lot of either the InvestorFuse community or people that follow this podcast are either in a mastermind, a quote unquote mastermind, which is just some type of joint collaboration, maybe doesn't have coaching, maybe doesn't have some type of accountability. And I think I kind of answered that with that is kind of looking, A, if they have core values written out or that they go by, and B, if you align with those. In addition to that, what other things should people be looking for in the mastermind? Obviously, there's the cost, the quote unquote cost involved. We talked about the return you're going to get from mastermind. It's kind of like unquantifiable how much they can help you if you join the right one. But what type of stuff should they be looking at? And either Cav, Alex, take that away.
Yeah, so let me jump in because several things come to mind, and Steve, you can kind of clean up behind me here. But that's a loaded question. Let me just kind of share with you what's bouncing around in my head. Number one, I think people that are evaluating masterminds need to really look at who's running the mastermind. Is that person running it more because it's a profitable business, which, by the way, in many cases it is, or are they running it because they really have the heart that they want to contribute and they want to help others? And there's absolutely nothing wrong if it's just a business. That's perfectly fine. And I think it's even better when the leaders genuinely want to help people. And it's not just getting anybody that they can in a room that can make a large investment, because masterminds are a big investment of money and time. And so that's the first thing I would look at is, usually these masterminds might interview you, and some say that they're actually interviewing when it's really just a sales call. But I would find out, I would ask questions. It's a two-way street. They want to find out about you. You should ask questions about them. Ask questions about the people that are running it, their background. Why did they even, you asked us, how did we come together? How did we launch Ascend? Why did we launch Ascend? I would ask that question to the people running the group. I would also ask what kind of people make up the group. Because, again, I've been a part of masterminds that just had the wrong people with the wrong intentions. And those things, it's like a house of cards. Those things just don't last long. And what I found is that when you're around a group of people that are not only successful, but genuinely want to walk alongside you and want to build you up and hold you accountable, that's where a lot of the power in a mastermind comes. And when people are very open and vulnerable and transparent about their challenges, you receive as much, if not more, than the person on the actual hot seat. And that's, I'm a part of masterminds where you have to prepare a presentation and get up there and share. And those are great because you learn a lot. But like Steve said, it's more of a classroom style versus when you're listening to someone say, hey, here are my challenges, both in my business and in my personal life. You get the collective brain power of everybody in that room sharing their experience. And sometimes it's somebody else that's sharing something and I'm like, wow, I've never thought about that, or that's an interesting point. And so I receive so much from other people's turns. Those are the few things that I think people really need to look for is A, look at the leader. Do they have core values? Why did they launch the mastermind? Is it a fit with who you are? B, who are the people that make up the mastermind? Ask those questions. C, what's your ultimate goal? Like, why are you considering a mastermind? Is it strictly for business? Do you just want to make more money? Because there's great masterminds out there that only focus on real estate or only focus on business and making money. So I would really, whenever I want to do something, I always kind of take a few steps back and ask myself why. I truly believe if you ask yourself the right types of questions, you're going to find the right answer. Ask yourself crappy questions, you're going to get crappy answers. And so really ask yourself, why are you interested in a mastermind? Is it because it's a buzzword, because everybody's talking about mastermind and you feel like you should be a part of one? Or do I really want to up-level my business, my life, a combination? And then realize that if it's strictly business, those can be accomplished in other ways. You don't purely have to join a mastermind just to make more money. And I tend to look to be a part of groups that focus on life first and business, not just one or the other. And so those are some of the things that I look for personally and that I suggest others look for.
Love it, man. Great Gibbs and advice there. And I think one thing that's cool, I've been thinking about this kind of the whole time that you guys have been talking about Ascend, is kind of just by the nature of humanity and consciousness, if you will, it's going to be more and more a higher trend of people that want to care about giving back and contribution and stuff like that. So that's cool that you guys are kind of ahead of the trend or right, trailblazers of that trend, which is awesome to see.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a part of that, Carlos, is that when Steve and I came together, we said, who's our avatar, right? Like who would we love to work with? And one of the first things that came up for us are people that also have a desire to contribute and to impact and give back to others. And we said, how can we have a ripple effect on not just the people we're working with, but like additional people in their community, in their inner circle? And we said, we ultimately came down to the fact that we need to look for people that have a desire to contribute. It's not just about making more money or scaling. Not that there's anything wrong with that. That's important. But yeah, I think it's really important to find out for people considering a mastermind, whoever runs the mastermind, what's their intention? Is it just for money? And if so, that's fine, but just know that going into it. Or is there something else really truly behind that? That's the driving force behind them. Because masterminds, you and I both know, all three of us know, they're popping up everywhere. You know what I mean?
100%. 100%. Well, let's talk about, unless you have a point to piggyback on that one. I definitely wanted to talk a little bit about the main thing of what this is revolving around. And one of your core principles and values is how have your members been doing and the success that they've had. I was going to say the Guatemala trip. I definitely thought I saw T. Royce post pictures in that trip. And, I don't want to make you guys wait to the end. I'd be happy to connect you with either some local investors I know or some people that are in Send. If in addition to talk to Alex and Steve, if you wanted to hear just from some members too, if that's cool with you guys, just to hear what the group is like.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely. And that's not a request that we haven't heard before. We've had a number of candidates want to speak with people who are in the group. And I mean, it's one of those things Alex and I could give you everybody, and everybody have just been singing our praises. And I hope that doesn't come across as arrogant at all. It's just reinforcement for Alex and I that, man, what we are doing here is working and it's literally changing lives. I'll let Alex give a personal example of maybe a story about somebody who's had experienced a personal breakthrough. But I mean, I'm thinking of, I'm not going to mention any names just because, what happens in the room is confidential 100%. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you that we have a guy who is very quickly becoming one of the top wholesalers in the entire state of Maryland. And he is just going guns a-blazing, and he's only been in business for a year and a half, but legitimately he is doing a lot of business in Maryland right now. Just a total rock star, really. And very fortunate to have him in the group. He came to the last retreat that we did just a handful of months ago. And this is a guy who wasn't sure that he was even going to be able to, he thought he might pick up a little nugget here or there, something along those lines. He was just completely floored when he left the mastermind. He immediately went home and implemented one little thing that he learned there just through the discussion. Again, nobody's teaching anything. Everybody's just talking about what's going on and addressing their challenges and helping them out. He went home and he immediately made that tweak and made 38 grand like that. Within the next 30 days, he added another 38 grand to his bottom line that month. So, that may or may not sound like a big thing to you, but that's just an extremely small example of the type of effect that being in the right group can have.
Yeah, I mean, Carlos, I'm thinking about somebody that I was working with that joined, I want to say in August, and the first coaching call we had, he was sharing with me how, him and his fiance are in a pretty significant hole. And obviously I would never mention any names or anything, but they're in a pretty significant hole debt-wise. And, one of their biggest goals is to climb out of that as quickly as possible, because part of their vision is to live debt-free. Debt really weighs you down. And this person was working as an acquisition manager for another successful investor. And they were just feeling like they were doing all the work, handling everything and getting a very small portion of the pie. And for years, they felt this way. Somebody that knows the business, has done deals, but was doing it for someone else and just didn't have, I guess, the confidence really to go out and do this on their own. And, we spent quite a bit of time saying, kind of breaking through a lot of the limiting beliefs that he had. And I think that's what a really good coach does. Is a coach doesn't tell you what to do. Like, hey, go do A, B, and C. A coach really maximizes your potential and helps you see what you can't see. Does that make sense? They help you overcome a lot of the fears and mental barriers that you might have about someone. Well, shortly after that call, when I say shortly, I'm talking like within a 2 to 3 week period, he ended up giving his boss, the investor, a 2-week notice. That investor wasn't too fond of that, kind of just sent him packing on his way. I kid you not, Carlos, within like a 35 or 40-day period, dude contracted 4 properties, and he ended up closing on all 4, made 55 grand, which was just about what he was making as an acquisition manager per year. Dude made that in about 2 months. And that just goes to show the power. He did all the work. I take zero credit for any of that. But he just didn't have that confidence. He had some limiting beliefs. And I think what the right person does is help you see through that And we always start with, hey, what's your vision? Is your vision to be debt free? Is your vision to go out and do this on your own? Great. Well, then let's let your vision kind of guide some of your decisions. And I was just able to help him ask some questions, help him see the potential he had in himself. He made that call, and dude is absolutely crushing it now. Like, and I know that crushing it is kind of overused these days. But I mean, guy's doing handful of deals a month, and he's been on his own 3-4 months now. So, and in a very competitive market, I would add. So
that's awesome, guys. Well, hey, I mean, I didn't get a full breakdown of the caricature as far as what you're looking for someone to join the Ascend program, but people that I know in there, I probably have a decent idea of that. So what is the best way to find out more information or get in touch with you guys? I know you said you have a few more spots open up for interviews and stuff like that to check applicants out to see if they'd be a win-win fit for one another.
Sure. So I'll be happy to tell you that. Let me just very quickly kind of tell you who this is for to answer your question a little bit. So first and foremost, this is for people who are doers, who make things happen, right? This is for people who have a positive mindset, people who can say yes to the right opportunities, people who are willing to be real and authentic, people who desire accountability with their lives and their businesses. This one's a little tricky, but people who would consider themselves to be advanced. That doesn't mean that you have to do a certain number of deals per year or per month or whatever in order to qualify. It just simply means that you're not a newbie. You know a little bit about either real estate or entrepreneurial, whatever venture you happen to be involved in. We do have business owners within the group as well. So this is not just limited to real estate investors, but that you have some sort of success or experience, okay? And then finally, it's for people who have like the right kind of mindset, you know, the passion and the drive, right? It's for those types of individuals. This is not for newbies. This is not for people who know it all. And this is not for victim type mentalities. So that should give you a good idea kind of who it's for and who it's not for. And then finally, Alex and I believe in what we call the 3 C's. The 3 C's are people who are coachable, people who can be a contributor and are willing to breathe life into others. And then finally, people who are committed, people who can make a decision, who are going to take action, who will implement strategies that they learn through the coaching and mastermind process, not just think about them. So if that sounds like that's a fit, Alex and I would love to speak with you. And you can get in touch with us through our website. It's ascendyoursuccess.com. Ascend, ASCEND, yoursuccess.com. ascendyoursuccess.com.
Very cool. I will put all that in the show notes for you guys. Like I mentioned earlier, if you're a follower of the podcast, a friend of mine, InvestorFuse member, whatever, maybe don't even want to reach out to Steve and Alex just yet. Like I said, I'd be happy to connect you with people that are loving the mastermind for a phone call, whatever type of chat. Definitely sounds like a mastermind that is in alignment with my vision. So I'm going to be a big advocate and supporter of that. I'm also going to link you to a podcast episode that Alex hosts. He is the host, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, the Flip Empire show, which I've been hearing, on and off for years. But I'm about halfway through an episode where he's interviewing Steve. He has a ton of awesome bullet point type stuff that he goes through that's right in line with InvestorFuse. He talks about the 80-20 principle, his philosophy on the art of life, living life on vacation, #LLove. Talks a little bit about life in air, all that type of good stuff. I'm going to link you to that episode. So if you guys are loving what Alex and Steve are talking about today, you can kind of get a full deep dive on them, not just hearing about the mastermind. And one thing I do love is authenticity and transparency. I think that kind of just puts any type of communication interaction you're having with somebody, it kind of just puts that on like a hyperspeed type path to just getting to know them and just seeing if you guys are a good fit for, is that a type of relationship you want to grow in your life or something like that. So to end the show, I want to hear about, since we're towards the beginning of the year, I kind of just want to hear about some vision or goals that you guys have for this year, just to get people to be able to hear a little bit more about you. In addition to Steve being able to live semi-retired life, living off rental cash flow, chilling on the beach in South Florida, and Alex being able to catch, Heat games and Dolphins games down in South Florida, being a Bengals fan for his whole life.
So people are probably on the podcast. They're hitting that 15 seconds back, and they're like, "Did they just say Alex is from Miami and he's a Bengals fan?" Like, what?
I think we just lost half the listeners there mentioning those teams, huh?
We may have. Go ahead, Cam, if you want to go ahead and tackle this one first.
So just so I'm clear, the question is, what are some goals this year?
Yeah, just some goals and visions that you guys have set for this year.
Yeah, well, I mean, first and foremost, our collective vision here is to build out our first phase of this group, which is 2 groups of 15. We are almost there. And like I said, I couldn't be more proud of the hard work that Alex and I have put into this. And man, it's been a blessing to be able to build this out with him. And the leaders that we are raising up in this group are just motivating for he and I to coach. And I don't want to speak for Alex, but it's just awesome. But personally for me, I still run a full-time real estate investment business in Maryland, in Southern Maryland. I am Southern Maryland's largest cash buyer, have been for many years, continue to be. Certainly very well known. I run a company there called Southern Maryland Home Buyers. I have employees in the area who run everything for me. So I'm a remote investor, or whatever you want to call them. So I just want to continue things going with that. I do have a goal to buy a self-storage facility this year. Something nice. I've been interested in for a number of years now, but I haven't pulled the trigger on one just yet. I haven't passively invested in them, but I want to actually put together one of these deals myself. So if anybody out there has an interest in self-storage, please reach out to me.
Very cool. Yep. I'd love to connect you with one of my best friends, InvestorFuse client-wise, who's in Chicago and is getting pretty big into self-storage type stuff.
Great. That'd be great.
So Carlos, for me, one of my big goals that I'm really, really excited about is my family and I have a goal. So we love to travel. I have 2 little girls, 2 and 4, and we love to create memories. So we did quite a bit of traveling in 2019. 2020, we have a family goal to travel 60 days out of the year, nice. Of which we have 35 days already booked and paid for. So we're looking for an additional 25 days of where to just vacation. I'm turning 40 in July. And so we will be island hopping around Greece for 3.5 weeks. And so that's a family goal. I have very specific goals as far as health is concerned. I mentioned I turned 40 and I will look and feel better than I ever have in my life. The older I get, Carlos, the more I realize that I need to place even more of an emphasis and importance on health, because if you don't have your health, what do you have? Mm-hmm. And, entrepreneurs are usually visionaries and they think big. And in order to accomplish whatever goals that you might have out there, you need to have the sustained energy and you need to be healthy, and so I really encourage anybody listening to this to prioritize health. And, it's funny, this is actually very apropos. Steve and I reached out to him yesterday and I said, man, I have some, I've already documented my 2020 goals. I want to share them with you and I want to kind of get your thoughts on it. And I was very open with him and I said, man, I'm kind of struggling with my income goal because I initially set the income goal for 2020 and I'm like, I know I can do so much more, but yet my vision, it's not that expensive. It doesn't cost that much to live my vision, but it's important to me that I stretch myself as long as it stays within my boundaries, my vision. I'm not going to sacrifice working, 12, 20-hour days just in the pursuit of money and not have time with my family. That's not really what I prioritize. And all that to say is that, Steve kind of shared with me, he's like, and Steve, hopefully you don't mind me sharing this with people, but, he has his kind of own way of goal setting and he's got a little bit of a different way. And what I realized was that I need to switch. And Steve, I don't even think I shared this with you. Instead of making goals that are a particular dollar amount I want to make or a particular weight, I'm setting process goals. In other words, instead of saying, hey, I want to have X% body fat and weigh X amount, I'm saying I'm going to work out 6 times a week. I'm going to get 6 workouts in per week. So instead of saying I want to close 5 deals a month, reverse engineer the process and say, well, how many offers would you need to send on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to put you in line to close 5 deals a month? Because you can't control 5 deals a month, but you can control sending X amount of offers. So I really encourage people to think about tweaking their goals. Instead of them being like end-based, think about the process goals. Does that make sense?
100% makes sense. And that's a book that reminds me of a book I love, Atomic Habits, which prefers systems over goals. It's good to have it off in the distance where you can see it, but you should focus and fall in love with the process. And when you're setting goals, think about processes instead of the end results. So no, it totally makes sense. I love that.
Bingo. Yep.
Awesome. Alex, Cav, my dudes, appreciate you guys and the way you choose to live your life. The Ascend sounds like one of the most organic forming mastermind coaching / groups that I've come across. So it's cool to see that and can think about the ripple effect. Even some people I know that before we got on there that are on it and are loving it. So specifically for today, appreciate your guys' time. Hope you have an awesome 2020. Hopefully we can link up in the 305 when I visit Miami at some point, see my dad here this year.
Count on it, brother. Looking forward to it. And for anybody listening, aside from the mastermind, if we can help or just contribute in any way, reach out. We'd love to connect, mastermind aside and all that. If there's anything we can do to help, just let us know.
Yeah. Carlos, thank you, man. It was a pleasure to speak with you. Pleasure to do this, man. Would love to revisit all this at some point, maybe in the future. But certainly if you're ever down this way, I'm in West Palm. Look me up, man. I'm in the 561. So look me up if you're down this way, okay?
Definitely, man. Awesome, guys. Thanks for checking this out. Check the show notes below in the episode for all things on this episode. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care, guys.